let's move on. The codebreaker, as I said, pops up to save them on the cliff's edge, and somehow nobody on the security forces of the entire planet thinks this is worth checking out. Like, how do you miss this ship? It pops up right next to the area that a bunch of dog-horse racing animals escaped, and, whatever. Porgs. The most accurate way to summarize this series of events is to say this. The codebreaker was apparently waiting in prison to free Finn and Rose after they got jailed for a parking violation they didn't even know existed, to then meet up with BB-8 and steal a hyperdrive-enabled craft and then rescue them all from the cliffside, only to then escort them back to the Resistance fleet to break through the Supremacy's shields, to crack through the security surrounding the breaker, to disable the tracker, to allow the Resistance fleet to escape, all the while having BB-8 with him so that the droid is still in the story. There are so many conveniences in this entire thing that I am not actually going to break all of these things apart for you. I'm just gonna say that little section, that paragraph that I just read out, made me genuinely wonder whether or not the writer was trolling us. Rabid fans have tried desperately to make sense of this. One such argument is that the guy is clearly a drunk, and he regularly ends up in prison, but continuously escapes when there is a call to adventure. It makes complete sense. This is a kind of Stockholm syndrome you deal with when people love something unconditionally. They will simply spin the situation to make it about how the film has us think for ourselves. It makes authors out of us, and nothing else offers such an experience. This is not true. Take anything with gaps in the plot and it can be done. Any mediocre or downright poorly written content has plenty of room for you to become its author, and when you do, it should be clear that when your own headcanon is the only thing preventing the film from falling apart entirely, that you may be a little bit brainwashed. I have absolutely done this in the past with things that I love, and I've come to a similar realization. When you scrape the bottom of the barrel for convenience to make your movie work, and you have people invent backstories for your characters in order to have the actions on screen make sense, your writing is in dire need of help. Oh, and I almost forgot, there is an attempt to make the audience feel good outside of the reality of the situation. They show a child who is muddied up and still engaged in slavery celebrating the release of the animals despite the fact that he'll likely get whippings for it. But it made us feel good to see it, right? He even says, woo!
He's dead.
But he just said woo!
No, that was air escaping from the folds of his fat.
Woo!
You also get to see the animals roam free. That's nice, isn't it? Honestly, I tend to block out CANTO BIGHT when thinking of this film, not because it's boring, but because it's so horribly written on so many levels. There's nothing that can save how rushed and childlike it all is. I would in future beg Rian Johnson to not only re-script his work a few times, but to hire a co-writer that shares his goals. I understand that it was to be a sole project, but some people are simply unprepared or incapable of handling that sort of scope, or that pressure. And CANTO BIGHT is strong evidence of that. Because the problem isn't simply that the story is bad, that what the characters are doing or what the plot is awful. It's that it's also being told in a very incompetent way. Though if you're at this point in my series, I'm sure you've probably agreed with that by now.